EMP Series Revolution, Episode 8. Carl Fairley was sitting in the small cabin in the mountains used by the Section 7 security team. He was in front of the ham radio in the tiny rear nook that served as the comms area. He set the radio's dial to the pre-designated frequency and keyed the mic. Rat's Nest 1 from Eagle 12, copy? He repeated the call. Rat's Nest 1 from Eagle 12, copy? After a brief silence, the response came. Rat's Nest 1, copy Eagle 12. Rat's Nest 1, be advised, initiating encryption software. Copy that, Eagle 12. Setting up encryption protocol 3. Carl ended the transmission. Eagle 12 out. Deep in the sub-basement underneath the bicycle shop, in the small Virginia suburb of Washington, D.C., Captain Arthur Lewis shut off his radio and booted his laptop. He inserted the thumb drive containing the encryption software into the USB interface on the computer. The system initialized, and within minutes, the scrambled email appeared in Lewis's inbox. He read the message out loud. Be advised, Intel received 12 April. Principal identified as Congressman Ted Holmes, R., Alabama. Repeat. Principal identified, Congressman Holmes, R., Alabama. Identification confirmed and verified in field. Authentication code, Alpha Victor Charlie 3374. Will wait for instructions to proceed if possible. Captain Lewis pensively stroked his beard. If possible? He looked across the room at his second in command. Make arrangements for me to get to Northwest Connecticut ASAP, Lieutenant. The response came immediately. Roger that, Captain. Then, with the encryption program still running, he fired off an email of his own. Level 1 alert. Principal identified and confirmed in field. Leaving for area of operations directly. He hit send and shut down the laptop. He put it in his gear bag, which was already packed to go, and climbed the steep stairwell up to the basement. Levi Connolly was a farmer who ran a small dairy operation 10 miles up the road from where Carl's homestead was. He was in his late 70s, and the farm was mostly run by his 4 sons. Levi had a slight stroke several years ago, but it was barely noticeable other than a slight limp. He sat quietly on the bench on the train platform in town, seemingly just relaxing and reading his Bible. He would take notice of people as they came and went along Main Street. While he made mental notes in his sharp mind about everyone and everything he saw, he was looking out for one person in particular, Congressman Ted Holmes. Levi was part of the Watchers. The Watchers were a group of citizens that Carl had mobilized to observe various locations and situations of strategic importance. They were mostly older individuals who wanted to contribute to the cause but were beyond their prime physically, and therefore not effective as part of the fighting force. They were very effective in their role because they blended in easily in crowds, or, as in this case, just sitting alone in town enjoying the beautiful day. The members of the military would not expect a man nearing his 80s to be involved in the revolution. These individuals were generally dismissed by all concerned as just useless old people who had nothing to contribute to the cause. Carl knew that the exact opposite was true. He knew Levi and others like him were wise and had decades of practical knowledge and experience behind them. Levi Connolly may have a slight limp, and he may have to get up 6 times a night to urinate. But he knew who was president in 1952, and he could recite the preamble to the Constitution and list every one of the Bill of Rights and explain in detail what each one meant. More importantly, he loved this country, and he knew how and why it came to be. He knew the true meaning of loyalty and patriotism, and embodied the very essence of both. He understood what it meant to be free, and he knew what it took to earn and maintain it. Yes, it was true. A man like Levi Connolly was not going to participate in 20-mile patrols or take part in an armed assault to free an associate. But that did not make him useless. In reality, he had plenty to offer the cause. The very fact that these older patriots were so easily dismissed by the opposition was one of their greatest assets. Levi looked down at his watch to check the time as he saw another member of the group walking slowly and feebly toward the platform. When he reached the trading post, he took a seat on the bench outside it and took off his cap and used the handkerchief he removed from his pocket to wipe the sweat from his forehead. Levi closed his Bible, picked up a bag of supplies that he had gotten earlier at the trading post. He walked over toward the diner. He walked in and exchanged pleasantries with several of his friends and neighbors as he took a seat at the counter. He ordered coffee, and when it arrived, he opened his Bible and his ears. There was a group of military officers sitting at a booth behind him. Captain Crawford was among them. They paused briefly to look over at Levi as he sat down, but quickly resumed their conversation. The watchers rotated members frequently as to not draw suspicion. They were just older members of the community, seemingly going about the business of everyday life. The people in the area and the watchers mostly knew each other, so their presence and interaction flowed organically. Levi Connolly was an engineer when he was younger. He helped design and build the dam up north of town. He helped engineer the elaborate and complicated floodgate system housed within the dams, as well as the various overflow chutes and culverts. Before his father passed away and he took over the family dairy operation, Levi Connolly also worked in the design and construction of several of the valley's hydroelectric plants that were found along the river in the region. Levi had a photographic memory. He instantly committed to memory every image or picture he ever saw. He also had the capacity to organize and store volumes of data and informational details. The idea of the Watcher group was Levi's. When he first brought it to Carl, he was skeptical. However, it didn't take Levi long to convince Carl that his keen mind could be invaluable to the cause. As he sat with Carl in a barn on a farm outside of town, he asked him what he was reading. Carl told him it was an after-action report of the op that freed Frank, his deputy. Levi asked Carl if he trusted in him enough to read a page of it to him. Carl responded, "Levi, trusting you is not my issue. I've known you all my life. You were one of my father's oldest and closest friends. It's just that you're—" Levi interrupted. "I'm old. You can say it, Carl. It's not like I don't realize I'm old, son. I was born on July 21st, 1941 at 6:30 a.m. Yes, Carl, I am old. Please humor an old man and read me the report." Carl read the report in its entirety, all 3 pages of it. When he finished, he set it down on the table and looked at Levi. Levi interrupted him again and proceeded to recite the report back to him almost verbatim. Carl smiled at him and paused for a moment. "Well, if you want to put together a small group and keep an eye on things, I guess you can't cause too much trouble for me. Go ahead, but please, Levi, be careful." Levi chuckled. "Son, you don't get to be my age any other way." Then he turned and started for the door. He stopped before he left and looked back at Carl. "Carl, something's a little off about that report you just read me." Carl looked up at him. "How's that now?" he asked. "Well, when you told your man on the train, Agent number 2, you referred to him as, to pull up his bandana to cover his face before walking off the train, he said that it didn't matter because there was nobody else on the train except civilians, farmers, and citizens, and most of them were on your side. Then he left." You didn't address that at all. It just seems odd that you would let that go unchecked. Carl smirked. As a matter of fact, I just shot him a look, and he pulled it up, Levi. No words were ever spoken about it. Oh, okay, Carl. Well, just an old man's observation, but it seems like sloppy report writing not to mention it or explain it in any way. It's been my experience that it's always the little details that mess things up down the road. Well, I'm sure it's insignificant anyway. Carl held back a smile and said, "You're dismissed, soldier. Get out of here." Levi smiled back. "Yes, sir. If my group finds anything out, we'll communicate it to you through Hollis Bellows, until and unless otherwise instructed." He walked out slowly and sauntered off to his horse and wagon, and rode away. To this point, Carl had sent encrypted emails to Captain Arthur Lewis, the director of Section 7, disclosing a complete list of names of everyone involved in the cause. He did this to ensure that Lewis knew who he could trust and count on should anything happen to him. That way, the mission could continue under Lewis's directions seamlessly. However, today would be different. There would be no email, or any other record for that matter, ever mentioning the existence of the Watchers. Carl made a mental note to speak to Hollis Bellows about it. He would make sure nobody but the two of them would ever know about the group. Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the series, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. In the description section, I've also included a link to my Patreon page for those of you who may wish to join me there. Thank you. God bless you.